Welcome to Therapy Inspired. As therapists, we have a unique view of the world. We hold space for grief and trauma, yet we also witness resilience and healing, all while being humans ourselves. We hope to share helpful psychoeducational insights from our world as psychotherapists in and out of the therapy room. And while we'll be talking about things therapy related, listening and engaging in this podcast doesn't equate a client therapist relationship. And though we might be using insights from our work with various clinical issues, we don't reference specific cases. Hi, I'm Kameela Osman. I'm a registered social worker and a psychotherapist in Bowmanville, where I see in-person clients and I do virtual therapy throughout Ontario.
Hi, my name is Darby Crosby, and I'm a registered psychotherapist. I work online virtually. I see individuals, couples, and families throughout Ontario. And I want to welcome you to Therapy Inspired podcast that Camilla and I both do. And today we're going to explore how money conversations impact our mental health and our relationship.
Money is emotionally charged and affects a lot of individuals, families, and even kids. So we're going to dive in and break it down. How does this influence our mental health?
So money is tied to a lot of emotions, security, power, self-worth. And a lot of times we learn money and the stresses that surround money based on like what our parents did or what our parents taught us. So it becomes sort of a mindset. And also there's a lot of societal pressures, especially like now with the social media and stuff. Everybody sees that people are doing all these fun things and everything else. And sometimes that puts pressure on us to feel that we don't have as much, right? And it leads to sort of more of that scarcity mindset, which creates fear and anxiety. We don't want to talk about money and we don't want to sort of deal with money. So I think it's really important that we do find ways to have conversations. What
Yeah.
do you think, Camilla?
I hear that, Darby. I do also see, as you bring up, like narratives that we learn and the comparison with social media, a lot of shame can be held around money. And so there can be that fear of, will people judge me because I'm struggling? Or if I tell, my partner my debt or this new person that I'm dating that debt, will they judge me for it? I can't talk about it with friends. And so anytime we're keeping secrets or we're feeling like awkward about talking about something, it can lead to more shame and even anxiety as you talk about that scarcity mindset.
Hmm. And I think in relationships, I mean, money is a leading sort of cause of conflict in relationships, right? And I think it's important that we do take time to talk about money. And often in relationships, one person may be better at the finances and managing all the expenses, and the other person has other tasks in the relationship. But I think it is still important to sort of have monthly, sorry, excuse me, check-ins, not necessarily monthly, but regular check-ins about money. Like, what are we doing? How's the mortgage coming down? Are we saving any money? Do we need to save more for the RESP, whatever? And also understand each other's sort of money sort of template. Are we just saving all the time or are we spending all the time?
What is that
And
mindset, essentially? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So and sometimes it's also about the way we talk about things. Like so if I come and say, well, you never do this or you never save any money and we need to save some money, that sort of shuts the conversation down because that's a very blaming kind of statement, even if I didn't mean it that way.
Mhm.
And if we do talk about things that are concerning us by saying things like, I'm feeling really stressed out that, blah, 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 like we don't have enough money for the children's education.
Mhm.
I'm on that theme today. And how can we create that financial vision that we both feel good about?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and so some of that can include reflecting on our own story with money. What did we learn about money growing up? How do we feel about spending? What does it mean to feel a sense of financial success? You might have different understandings of How much do you want in your savings account? And what's that cushion that feels comfortable? How much are you willing to spend on leisure or travel, on eating out, simple things like that? And coming back to conversations and why it may feel difficult, a lot of us aren't modeled how to talk about money, or even communication overall. And so this can leave a big gap um, in awareness of how to start that conversation. And sometimes it may lead to reactivity. I didn't hear my parents talk about this, so why are you asking me that? That's personal, or this feels awkward. And we may not know that this actually is helpful to compromise about and communicate around.
Absolutely. And I think that we need to be careful about doing that in front of the kids if it's a heavy duty conversation. But I think we can bring them in age appropriate sort of conversations like, we're going to do an outing. What would you like to do? We can do this or this. Or, how are we going to sort of budget our money when we go to the grocery store or the zoo or whatever. And, we talked about this briefly earlier, the sort of the generational sort of habits around money. So if my family and their family, before them were very frugal or very, willing to spend on anything, those tendencies and those things are learned. And it can influence how we monitor our money and how we teach our children how to monitor money.
Yeah.
So we do need to sort of figure out what the cycle that we have that needs to be broken. What are we doing well and what are we not doing well? And therapy can sort of help explore those tendencies or those dynamics and help you to rewrite those money narratives.
Yeah. Whether that's individually and doing some of those reflective questions, or as a couple, figuring out how to have those conversations without reactivity or without defensiveness. Essentially, that transparency, being open with each other, can reduce financial stress. As I mentioned, the secrecy and the withholding can amplify shame. The tension may be felt from that shame in the relationship or even in the household. And so once it's kind of more known, and as you said, not sharing in age inappropriate things with kids, but at least with partners, when you both are aware of what are the financial strains and you're working at it as a team, that can be actually really bonding. You can feel like you're working together to build those dreams and are on the same page with contributions, whether it's like whatever is the goals. We want to be able to go on this trip. Somebody's handling one piece, so it can be we're both contributing equally or we're both contributing in a way that makes sense. It really is what works for your family. But being able to talk about it transparently is a is a benefit, and making sure that you're on the same page with those things.
Mhm. Money can be a huge stressor, but it's also an opportunity to grow and to create those connections, like you just said, right? I mean, it's about getting to know each other, it's about getting to know our family and building that strength in the community of family.
And as you talk about like breaking those intergenerational cycles, we can, by modeling those healthy, transparent conversations, you might be positively influencing your kids, and the future of those around you. It may not be necessarily your kids, but other children in your world, that see you having those conversations, to know that it's an okay thing to talk about, that this is normal, and that there are ways to navigate those difficult conversations. So just highlighting some tips again with talking about money. You can start, like we've mentioned in past episodes, with those I statements, naming, what are you feeling, what's happening for you, rather than that you language that can automatically bring up defensiveness. Have regular check-ins for finances. Um, it can be for regular stresses, and finances can be a part of it, or it can be specific to let's sit down and do some budgeting, whatever feels comfortable for your family dynamic, and focus on shared goals. Watch for power struggles. I often say this to couples. You want to be mindful of the difference between transparency and control. So is someone over asking questions? Are we breaching boundaries? Are we checking each other's accounts? That kind of borders control and may actually be control if you're doing some of that checking. And you want to bring it back to we're sharing with each other and there's trust there. And there isn't that use of finances as a way of not manipulating, but manipulation can happen, but putting down the other person, making them feel bad because they make less or because their debt is more, making sure there's some equity in that conversation is really important. And then practicing self-compassion, whether it's with yourself or compassion validation with your partner, around struggles with money or difficulties in having these conversations. Is there anything you want to add, Darby, to that?
No, I think that that sums it up really well. I mean, and this is not a one and done. This is we have to sort of continually do this and touch base on different things. Because it is a family issue, and we do need to sort of figure out how does the whole what works best for our family. Excuse me.
And so, go ahead, Darby. Were
I
you
was
going
just going to say that I think this is an important sort of conversation. It's sometimes really hard to start, sorry. So if you want to share this episode with anybody that you think it might be useful to, it might be a good way to start the conversation. Like, I heard this, what do you think? And every couple of weeks we do a podcast on different things around insights around mental health or relational wellness. Um, but it's important to sort of open up the dialogue and talk.
take care until next time?